Hopefully you guys are doing good. This isn't the normal vlog because I have on my car seat um, a kind of like a monopod that attaches to the headrest. And today is the first episode of the new series, and the series is called Feeding Your Family While Being Priced Out of Paradise. Now, the reason why I named it this episode is because of two reasons. Um, Oftentimes when you think about cooking and you think about providing for your family, more importantly, it is one of those things where it's quite expensive to have like a home cooked meal at home. And the purpose of this series is that while a lot of people like myself are on EBT, it's easier to go with the ready-made option, meaning meals that are already prepped that you don't need to worry about. But I'm here to show you that you can hack the system and make really great meals and spread it out through the week and have something very exciting, while not kind of wasting anything. So this video will also tie in with today's episode for the mukbang. So hopefully you guys like it, and let's get this episode started, shall we? So what am I going to be talking about today? Well, simple. We're going to be talking about seasoning. Now, all of you guys might be wondering, why of all things seasoning? Well, let's put it this way. Seasoning is what makes food for me exciting. Growing up in a Southeast Pan-Pacific Asian home, it's one of those things that makes the food delicious. And if you don't season your food, you're either psycho or you just don't know what seasoning is. And that also goes the same for if you over season something. And this also goes into things like having a specific set of seasonings that are constantly in your cupboard. Now, I shouldn't be vlogging this episode while I'm driving, but I feel as though I'm going to be saving a lot of time talking about it while I'm in the car and talking to you guys. I wish I had a longer extension so it could be like right over there, like right in my peripheral, like right here. Kind of horrible. It's kind of dark, but yeah. Anyways, going back to like how seasoning is important and what's so important about it is that seasoning is actually one of the first things that, if you look at it and you read like a lot of chef steps, not chef steps, but like chef recipes and cooking recipes, you'll see a myriad or a different variety of seasonings. And oftentimes you'll see that it's a lot of herbs and the general seasoning, which is salt and pepper. But did you know that there's a variety of salt and there's a variety of peppers that give different flavors and are used, in specific for salt, are used for different purposes. Like for example, rock salt. Rock salt is basically mini pebble grain versions of the seasoning that provide wonderful texture, that add a ton of salt flavor, and can be ground to different size of grain or size granules. Then there's flake salt. Flake salt is one of those things where, or what they call fleur de sel. I don't know the translation, but I do know that it's flake salt, and that's one of the names of it. Fleur de sel is one of those things where it's a beautiful salt to finish with, but it's a bitch when you just use it as a seasoning throughout your dish. Simply because fleur de sel is a specialty salt that is used for finishing. Like say for example, you taste the dish, right, and it's not to your liking palate-wise, meaning taste-wise. You could use fleur de sel to essentially add another layer of salt while enhancing the flavor. And fleur de sel actually finishes very tannic, meaning it's very bitter. It's a very bitter finish. And the reason why I say it's a very bitter finish is because the way that it's processed. Then you have a way where, or rather, rewind. With fleur de sel specifically, you have a lot of there's basically a lot of salt. It's salt concentrated, basically for me. If that makes any sense. Sorry, I'm kind of rambling, and I hope you guys can see me because it's like silhouette here. So that's basically it. And then on top of that, we have your regular table salt. Now, there's different varieties of table salts, believe it or not. There's sea salt, of course, obviously because it comes from the sea. Pink Himalayan sea salt, which can be done in a variety, can be used in a variety of methods. Which, for me, the popular method for me is seasoning it as a cure. So what do I mean by cure? Not cure for a disease, but cure for meat, as a way to preserve meat. And salt, in all its forms throughout its history, has been used as what's known as a desiccant, which means to draw moisture and to intensify in flavor. um, then there's your regular iodized salt, which basically they put iodine in the salt. Now, there's a theory that iodine over time is not good for your health, or it's really good for your health, all of that. For me, salt is salt. And salt in all of its forms is freaking delicious. And there's also a craft form of salt called smoked sea salt, where basically what I theorize, I'm not really sure about smoked sea salt. You guys can Google it. It adds a nice smoky flavor to whatever dish you're using, and it's a natural form of liquid smoke. For me personally, because liquid smoke basically they basically just, for me, what I think liquid smoke is, they just basically put water in a smoker and they use that. The drippings from like smoking brisket over a specific type of wood charcoal is what they use. Peppers. Let's go to pepper. Salt and pepper. There's white pepper, black pepper, Szechuan peppercorns, green pepper, a lot of different peppers. Now we're not talking dried chili peppers. We're talking about the seasoning pepper. Green chili peppers are, for me, I don't know much about them. I do know a lot about white and black pepper, however. Black pepper is the stuff that you basically see everywhere, and it's what a lot of recipes called for. Now, for a milder, more aromatic pepper, the white pepper in and of itself is a little bit different. I don't know how it's processed, but I do know for a fact that it adds a nice pleasant back heat. Like, say for example, you don't like chili flakes in, say for example, a pasta sauce, which some pasta sauces, they do have that nice back heat to it, which gives a nice mild, warm flavor. It basically does add that. Let me speed up this because I have this truck thing. It basically does add that type of warmth, but it doesn't really do much in regards to adding spice. Pepper is very abrasive, whereas you have the direct heat from the pepper from when you add white pepper. So we're going to be doing, in regards to seasoning our proteins, meaning beef, chicken, fish, or shellfish, whatever, we're definitely going to be using a variation of seasonings along those lines. Now, in regards to seasonings that can be multi-purpose, there's a variety of seasonings that I can go on and on about, but then this will basically be a several hour long video. Like, looking at my recording timer now, I'm nearing the 10-minute mark. Basically, it's 8 minutes, 17 seconds. So, basically, all I'm trying to say is that you don't need to be a fancy chef, yada, 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 to know seasoning. All you need to know is you can add a little bit at a time, but be very wise with how you season. It's one of those things also where you can use it in a multitude. It's one of those multi-purpose ingredients where you can do a lot with it. You can marinate it. You can add it to a dry rub to enhance the flavor of the rub. You could cure it, and you could basically, another form of marination is curing. You could basically remove the moisture from a steak without having to buy dry aged beef. Believe it or not, certain bulk stores, Sam's Club, Costco, whatever meat market that you want to go to, they do sell dry aged beef. You just have to order it and search for it. And then instead of paying a premium, you can do it at home. And that's a whole other video and probably I might not do. But it's definitely one of those things where you shouldn't be afraid to try new flavors, try new ingredients. And I'm going to show you several seasonings that can be used in several different formats to create different flavor profiles along with certain sides and all of that. So with that being said, let's check out Sam's Club. And since that's where I'm going, since I'm going to be buying some groceries in regards to like stocking up the fridge, stocking up the cupboards, I'm going to show you kitchen essentials basically. Aside from salt and pepper, what type of salt, what type of seasonings you can have and use in a multi-purpose seasoning instead of buying like Lori's, Mrs. Dash, just to name a few. It's one of those seasonings where you can use it for everything and anything. And I'm gonna actually show you guys how to make my favorite type of seasoning, and I hope you guys like it. It's gonna be a mix of dried herbs, granulated garlic, garlic powder, all of that. So hopefully you guys like it. See you guys at Sam's. So at your local bulk grocery store like Sam's Club and all of that, it's tempting to buy frickin' frack for basically dirt cheap. But the one section that I see that gets rarely used is well, I'm leaving that in there. The one seasoning that gets very rarely used and rarely frequented is the seasoning aisle. Now, seasoning is a big part of food, and oftentimes people who are on EBT food stamps generally are afraid to use it because, like I said earlier, and my view is this many times over, is that people who are on food stamps and EBT, they would rather have the ready-made options. They rather have something that's easy and convenient. And on top of that, it's a lot cheaper and it spreads the EBT a lot. But for those of you who are watching this vlog / episode, what if I told you that you could maximize on flavor and savings by bulk buying seasoning ingredients? And for that, I'm actually going to be switching to this bottle because I don't want to walk around with this. I just want to use this to catch B-roll. I can't be lugging this around because that'll be a punk move on my part, not paying attention to anybody and just focusing on the camera. But as I was trying to say in the first clip, several clips, the seasoning aisle is one of the most underly used aisles because at most you'll see people, 10 to 15 people per aisle, buying just basic ingredients like salt and pepper. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. However, what if I told you that there's ways that you can maximize on flavor, maximize on your budget while using your EBT food stamps or even pinching pennies? Like, for example, granulated garlic. Instead of spending roughly, I would normally spend at Costco and Sam's, I would normally spend about $9 to $10 on garlic. Let me just move this out of the way so you can see. And simply, this actually gives a lot of great garlic flavor for, I would say it says $7, so $8. This thing normally would last you roughly a month, maybe or two, because you don't need a lot of it. Say for example, you're stir frying something or you're using it as a seasoning. These are one of the seasonings that actually burns a lot, so you want to use it near the end or in the middle of, say for example, a braise or even a braise or a bake, simply because it burns often on high heat. Now combined with salt and pepper, it's wonderful. Another seasoning that people oftentimes don't buy, if you can, I'm just gonna see if I can pan this way. There's a lot of seasonings, but a lot of them are not being touched. Am I in frame? Hopefully I'm in frame, otherwise that will be shit. But yeah, there you got your cayenne pepper, your bay leaves, you got cumin, you got cinnamon, you got dried herbs. And dried herbs are one of those seasonings where you can use a lot of it and still have great flavor. A lot of people are on the fence about buying dried herbs, but I say dried herbs if you're balling on a budget, don't have much money. Dried herbs are the way to go. Now, they don't have much of what I normally would buy, and they don't have a bulk variety, but one of the varieties that I get when I come, and for the seasoning blend that I'm going to be showing you guys, I use rosemary, gotta use sea salt, some thyme, I already have parsley. I think I'm just thinking I'm going to buy it. Parsley, oregano. Oh, am I blocking?
No, you're good.
Okay.
You're good.
Oregano, Let's see what else. I gotta have, like I said, garlic powder, and sorry about that. And then black pepper. Now we should have also onion powder too, which granulated onion. These basically are what I use on a daily basis. This is what you can use to, instead of adding a ton of salt, you don't have garlic at home, you don't want to go out and buy garlic. These are one of the best ways that you can maximize on that and still have good flavor. Now, you might have seen that I've grabbed oregano and parsley. Parsley you could use a butt ton of because it doesn't have much flavor, but it does add a bright freshness to it. Oregano, on the other hand, you want to be very sparing with it if you're going to be using it in a multi-seasoning. It adds a nice sweetness and a nice freshness to it, but if you want everything tasting like pizza sauce, use a lot of it. If that's your flavor, go for it. I prefer not to use a lot of it. I would probably use less than a tablespoon, maybe even at that, that's too much. A pinch of oregano per, I would say, every quarter cup to cup of salt and pepper seasoning. Rosemary. Rosemary is one of those ingredients that adds a nice earthy, aromatic flavor that, say for example, you're using chicken or pork. It adds a wonderful earthy texture to the pork. Thyme, lemony, bright. Dried thyme, on the other hand, is not too bright, but it is very earthy. But it does add, when roasted and pan-seared, adds a nice, wonderful brightness to the dish, like when you're cooking it with beef, say for example, more specifically a steak. And I think for a little bit of heat, I want to add a little bit of flair to the dish, and I want to make everything exciting. So in this one, I'm going to use, I don't know why they say Spanish style paprika. Basically, they use either a Fresno chili or I believe a sweet pepper. But paprika is one of those seasonings also where you want to be very light on. It adds a deep, rich red color to the food that you eat. Like for example, if you're using arroz con pollo, the arroz con pollo that I've seen has paprika, and they also have cayenne pepper, which adds a nice heat to it. Also, this is one of the things where you want to be very sparing. And in total that I have in my basket right now, I would say I would have roughly $45 worth of ingredients that can last me roughly 2 to 3 months if you're on EBT or just pinching pennies. Another thing that I love to have in my cupboard, and that I always make sure that I have in the area of dried herbs, is chopped chives. Chopped chives is one of those flavors that is a very onion flavor, but it's not as strong. It's basically I would say it's a shallot top, the sprouts that you see off shallots. Very bright, very vibrant, very delicious. Cilantro. Cilantro is also one of the things that you want to be very sparing with. It adds too much of an earthy and a grassy note too, but when used properly, it adds another depth of flavor that I really can't explain. So added to the 3 ingredients, I would say I have $50 worth of ingredients that'll last me 3 months. You could can use it in different renditions, but for these purposes, I'm going to show you ways that you can use it with chicken, pork, and beef. And these are ingredients that I've worked with before, and I hope that when you guys watch the cooking portion of this video, you guys will like it. I want to buy, for purposes of this video, I found chicken base, which is basically base stock that you can use for soups, and beef base. This is one of the ways that you can use another form of salt, another form of seasoning, and add really good flavor. The only reason why I want to stray away from this is because you can't use this multi-purpose wise. You can't make a paste out of it because, one, it'll muddle the flavor of the beef. 2, it burns really easy if you don't use the right amount. And 3, it doesn't last very long because you need to keep it refrigerated. When you're buying stuff with your EBT, especially when it comes to food, you want to make sure that you're getting the best bang for your buck. While the chicken base is about I would say $6, so I have $12 worth of protein. This can make roughly a couple hundred gallons of stock, broth, and all of that. It doesn't do much because you constantly have to keep this refrigerated, and if you constantly take it in and out, my view is that you can spoil the food a lot faster. But since we're doing an experiment on which seasoning also is the best, as well as we're using this for a mukbang, I want to see whether or not a chef that I've seen, this isn't a Knorr stock cube, but it's basically a soup base, whether or not this will impart more flavor than just adding salt, pepper, garlic, basting, traditional methods basically. But I'm gonna hack the traditional methods using dried herbs. Seasoning essential that you should have always in your fridge is olive oil. Now, why olive oil compared to the rest of the oils? Well, olive oil for me has a better flavor. At the same time, when you cook with it over long periods of time, say for example, you're frying a steak for more than 10 minutes, it doesn't burn as easy. Now, what if you don't want olive oil? What if you want additional oils? Well, bulk buying oils for your house is one of the best ways of saving money, and this is actually one of the ingredients while a lot of people don't recommend reusing it. You can actually reuse oils up to 2 to 3 uses. So say for example you're cooking say 4 dishes. You could use the same oil that you cooked into the pan, reserving all of those flavors and enhancing the flavor of the next dish. Say for example you're cooking 2 beef dishes. You can use the same protein based oil or whatever you want to call it in the same, you cooking the same ingredients rather. And basically any type of oil, I prefer olive oil, 1 because I feel bougie, and 2, it's one of the ingredients that you can buy in bulk. Like this is basically what, 2 liters or 2 quarts. You can buy this generic brand Members Mark for roughly 3 liters. Hopefully you guys can see that. Hopefully I'm firm, otherwise it's fucked. And I'm gonna have to come back and shoot this video again. But yeah, that's one of the things that you have to have. And since I know we have olive oil, we have different oils, one of the things that you should always keep in stock in your cupboard, especially when you're at EBT or Pigeon Pennies, is cooking oil. Any type of cooking fat. And also too, like say for example you're cooking bacon, one of the things that's really good about bacon is that it has natural oils. It has animal fats. Now, there is a debate whether or not you should keep those animal fats, but I say keep it. On top of that, if say for example you put roasted garlic in the bacon fat and all of that, that's another way you can multi-purpose a single ingredient for multiple uses. And bacon fat, believe it or not, if you keep it in the refrigerator, will last you about a week. Put it in the freezer, a month to 2 months. I know this is about seasoning, and I know this is about kitchen hacks and all of that, but and spreading your bang for your buck. But at $11.78, probably I would say $12.50 if you include tax. I might be over exaggerating the price. This is actually a wonderful way of getting your grains without having to wait for the rice to cook. If you're like me, you love rice, this is one thing you should always keep in stock, but technically I wouldn't buy it because there's only about 2 purposes you could use for this type of rice, and that's basically with furikake and shoyu. That's basically all you can use it for. It doesn't take long to cook rice. If you have a really good stove, you have a really good rice cooker, or even you have those pressure cookers that can cook rice in less than 30 seconds, use it. Fresh rice is better than this stuff in that it has a longer shelf life. This will only last you, if you put it in the refrigerator, roughly, I would say a good week, week and a half, depending on the temperature of your refrigerator and all of that. But if in regards to like kitchen hacks, like say for example you're going to be using it for meal prep, one of the greatest ways of doing it, especially if you're kind of like a bland type of person, your diet is really bland, really good carbs, really good calories, and overall there is no distinction between white rice, brown rice, or even quinoa. It's just carbs going into your body to be digested as sugars. Now, I saw something while I was walking through the aisles, and if you don't have any form of soy sauce and you live in Hawaii, you say you love Hawaii, if you don't have soy sauce in your refrigerator or your cupboard is woefully understocked. Simply because soy sauce is one of those flavors where you can color with it. It has a natural caramel color to it. At the same time, you can add another dip of salt to it. So instead of bulk buying salt, you can just buy probably, I would say, a good liter. How much is this? This is about 120 ounces, so roughly just over a liter, or actually no, a gallon of soy sauce. This bugger can last you, if you're in a typical Hawaii household, this will last you probably a week.
Maybe less.
Probably less. The auntie agrees with me. And depending on your favorite brand, for me, I'm a toss between Aloha Shoyu as well as Kikuman. But if you don't have it in your cupboard, you're missing out on one of the basics of adventurous eating. Soy sauce has one of those flavors where it's dark, it's rich, it can be sweet, it can be super salty, super brackish, in the sense that it adds another level of seasoning to it. Some soy sauces are made out of barley, some soy sauces are made out of heavy grain, some soy sauces are made out of fish, believe it or not. And it's delicious all the way around. It's also a multi-purpose ingredient where you can marinate with it, you can make dressings out of it, you can rest a steak in it. Say for example you forgot to season your steak. By the way, what fuck forgets to season their meat? What kind of idiot forgets to season their meat? You can rest your steak, your pork in it, and you don't need a lot of it. You probably, if you're going to be resting a steak or pork chop, you could rest it in a teaspoon of soy sauce. Let the soy sauce, as it cools down, drink up the salt, drink up that marinade, and add another level of flavor without adding too much salt. Basically, I would say 1 tablespoon of salt is equivalent to 3 to 4 tablespoons of 1 tablespoon of soy sauce or shoyu here in Hawaii is equivalent to 3 or 4 tablespoons of salt. So you don't need a lot of it, and it'll last you a long time. Again, living in Hawaii, if you love soy sauce, a lot of locals love soy sauce. We put it almost on everything. We can blame the Japanese for that because it's so fucking good. It'll probably last at the longest a week. If you're a salt head, meaning you love salty foods, a day. I have to take off my hat because I'm starting to get sorry, I have to take off my hat because I'm starting to have a headache. And I need all of the circulation in my body to go to my head. And I just dropped the cap somewhere. I'll go look for it later. But yeah, so got all the ingredients, got my ingredients for my sides. Now to show you how I'm gonna cook it.